Hi, I'm Amy Bodkin. I'm from Amy Bodkin Consulting, and I am an autistic adult, a former school psychologist, and I also homeschool both of my autistic kiddos. Today, I'm probably going to be doing the first conference recording from a bathroom. Today, I'm talking with you guys about woodworking, and I had some doorknobs in my house that needed to be changed in my bathroom. So that's why we are going to be in my bathroom today. I teach woodworking and other handicraft classes at a Charlotte Mason punnery through their co-op. Handicrafts is one of my favorite topics because it involves doing things with your hands, and it's something I've always enjoyed. A lot of autistic kids do. Not all. It depends. For some, it's highly frustrating and we want to wait several years. For others of us, we love anything visual, spatial, and hands-on, and we're ready to go as soon as we can pick up a tool. When I teach handicrafts, my goal is not to teach kids perfect technique. My goal is to help kids develop a relationship with the materials they're working with, the possible techniques out there, and to really turn them loose with their creativity and see what they come up with. Being able to repeat what somebody else has done is great, and there's definitely something to be said for learning technique. But there's also a lot to be said for being creative and combining things in new ways, because that's really what we think of as art, not repeating what somebody else has done, but creating our own thing. I also offer a lot of adaptations when I'm teaching woodworking and other handicraft classes at a Charlotte Mason punnery, because sometimes we need adaptations. And so that's something I focus on a lot. I make sure that my classes are available to people at any age, any skill level, and we just work on pivoting wherever we need to. And you don't have to even do all the projects. You can save some for later on if you want to come back to it. But there's always at least a couple projects that are super accessible and others where you can make adaptations or work on them together as a family or as a team between parent and child. So it's something I really enjoy myself. Handicrafts has been a big part of our home. And I've had to learn how to make adaptations for different kids. But today I'm going to teach moms a little bit about woodworking. First, I'm going to introduce you to the toolkit I chose when I taught my class. This one is sized for children, but a lot of times what's sized for children can work well for moms. It really depends on size, but it's really important that your tools fit your body well. Because if they're too big or too heavy, then you're going to have a really hard time using them appropriately, and you can end up hurting yourself. Another thing that you will notice about this kit is that there are only hand tools. There are no power tools. And when I teach woodworking, I only teach it with hand tools. You can do almost anything with a hand tool that you can do with a power tool. So it's not required to have to use power tools to make just about anything. However, hand tools move slower and power tools move a lot faster. So it's a lot easier to hurt yourself. It's a lot easier to lose control. And also, when we have any challenges with fine motor skills or anything like that, it makes it even harder. So I prefer to teach with manual hand tools. My fine motor skills are not the best, to be perfectly honest. I'm terrible with a knife in the kitchen. So for me, using hand tools is really my comfort level. Does it take longer? Yeah, unless you're, get really good at it. I've seen some people who are very skilled with a handsaw saw through wood just about as fast as somebody with a big table saw. So it can be done, but for most of us, I find this is our comfort level. So let me introduce you to a few of the tools before we get started with our project. Our project today is changing out this doorknob, and we're also going to briefly delve into changing the hinges on a door. These are very simple projects, but they can also be overwhelming for a lot of parents. So I wanted to go ahead and make a video about something that's very hands-on that a lot of people can use in their homes that might be intimidating. But we will go over the tools real quick because I'd like you to get a feel for how these tools are supposed to be used. So even if you know how to change a doorknob and hinges, then hopefully there will be something you gain out of this, because there are definitely correct and incorrect ways to use hand tools. So the first tools we have here are a screwdriver set. You'll notice that they are sized very well for my hand. It's a child set. I have long fingers, but I have relatively small hands. So this is actually a really good feel for me. You have your flat head, and you also have your Phillips head, which is kind of a cross shape. And when you use screwdrivers, you want to press in really hard so that they turn without scuffing up your screws, because you can actually cause the screws to get stuck in there by what we call stripping the screw, by not having it pressed down in there hard enough. So that's really important. Our next tool here is our hammer. And this one's a very nice one in my hand because usually they're very heavy and it's harder to control. So with a hammer, what you actually want to do is, this hammer is an extension of your arm, okay? So this is how it should look. And you bend it from the elbow. The wrist should stay straight. And that is how the hammer should be used. Let's see, what else do we have in here? This is a mallet. We will be using this. It goes with our chisel. Very similar to a hammer, but it has a softer head. So not going to be quite as forceful or as powerful, and that's important. We have your standard tape measure, that's important, and a sharpener, because we have some pencils that came in this kit. Pencils are important. Kind of goes with the saying, measure twice, cut once. I don't know if that's something any of you live by or not, but it's a really good idea. You can't uncut something. And here's one of our pencils. You'll notice it has an irregular shape. It's to keep it from rolling off the table while you're working. This is a fantastic little gadget. You put your, I think I've got a nail in here and I can show you exactly how it works. I really feel like any home with children needs one of these. So you put your nail or screw, well, probably your nail, honestly, right in here and hold it. See that? You can see it. And then you're going to use your hammer to hammer that in until it hits all the way to the top. And when you take it out, it'll be a little bit elevated. There you go. Now you can see. And you can either hammer it all the rest of the way in, or if you're doing string art, then you can leave it at that height. All of them end up about the same height. And attach some strings, rubber bands. I love to use colored rubber bands because that's more accessible for a lot of people. And that's the first project we do in my woodworking class. Super user-friendly. All right, let's see. What else do we have in this kit? Safety glasses. Those are really important. I already have some glasses on. Sometimes you'll want to wear like goggles or something, but you don't want wood getting in your eye. That is not comfortable. This is a little gadget we made in my class. It's a sanding block, and the kids made these. They screw together, have a piece of sandpaper that can be taken on and then replaced. Let's see here. Now, this is an older one that we got from an antique store, but we have the one that I ordered for the class that I taught, because not everyone can go find one at an antique store. This is a manual drill. So if you will look on the end of it, let's see if I can. All right, so if I turn it this way, it opens this way up. And then if I turn it the other way, you can see that it is tightening it. And it's to hold the drill bit. Once you get the drill bit locked in place well, then you place it where you want it and you crank. And then if you want to come back out, you crank the other direction. So I love this because I find that electric drills are a little too fast and powerful for me to control well with my fine motor skills. All right, let's see what else we've got. Clamps. Clamps are very, very important. This is what holds wood still. Especially if you're working on a piece on a table, you can clamp your piece of wood to the table, and that can be useful. I like to do that when I'm carving. I love to carve with hand tools. Again, with the hand tools, I much prefer hand tools. And different people are different ways. Some people prefer electric tools. Um, Different people have different preferences, and that's okay. This is a file. It's very rough, and what we use it for is to kind of rough out curves that maybe we want in our wood. And then we can come back with a sanding block or a piece of sandpaper. You can see that we did that here. We roughed up these spots with this file. So that can be a handy tool. So as we go through this class with kids, they're getting to see how you use every single one of these tools through the projects that we're doing. All right, let's see what else we've got in here. We've got a few more things we haven't been through yet. All right, another pencil and clamp. This is a square. It helps us make sure that we're getting right angles when we're building something with wood. It also includes a ruler, so it helps us with measuring as well. But having a right angle is important. I don't know if you know this or not, but how we define straight, at least in the United States, is we have a straight object that is kept in our place of measurements, and that's the standard by which straight is determined. So having something like that, like a square, to help you with straight and right angles is incredibly helpful. Now we've got three kinds of saws. So this one is for making those tiny, tiny little sharp curves. The electric tool you would use for something like this would be a scroll saw. Maybe that's a possibility. Anyways, the tricky part is it's difficult to get sides completely straight because you've got to be really mindful because it has so much flexibility. So it's really not the saw you want to use for roughing something out. It's really more of a detail saw. This is our saw, our hand saw that we use for roughing something out. I'm going to show you something really quick with that. So let me turn it down a little bit so you can see. So this little stool here is a stool that we made when I was teaching woodworking. One of my kids made it. So when we cut wood, you place the wood here, and you want to put your knee on it right here. And then we hold our saw like this, and really you want your finger, pointer finger and thumb. That way you're kind of showing the direction. Your wrist stays straight. Again, it is a shoulder movement. And so what we can start with is pulling up, little short pull-ups. And then we can go down and up and down and up and down and up. And we're using this edge to keep us straight. So there's a proper way. Pull it up. There we go. There's a proper way to cut with a saw. And then there's a not proper way to cut with a saw. And this can be a very useful tool. You can use it very well and easily if you use it right. Technique is important for certain types of hand tools. And yes, I had kids using hand saws on class, and everyone did just fine. Like I said, using tools that are manual hand tools is a lot safer than your electric tools. So it's a better place to start with. This is a hacksaw. We used this when we were cutting out PVC pipe to make like a toy boat with smokestacks or something like that. This is really useful when you just need to hack something. It's not really used for your fine woodworking, but it is useful for like PVC pipe and things like that when you don't really want to use your woodworking saws. Still a handy tool. All right, and let's see what else. We have a few extra blades, and we've got drill bits. Those are important. They go with our little drill. Last tool, and this is going to be one we're going to use today. This is a chisel. And the chisel is used with the mallet because we want a softer touch. And you kind of find where you want it on the wood. This is a sharp end, and then you will give it a tap until you get it as deep as you want. And then you can use this beveled side here and kind of place it in for when you're ready to scoop out. So we will play with that some today with the doorknob because the doorknob I'm replacing here, this particular one has curved edges. The one we're replacing with has corners. So that'll be one of the ways that we're going to be using that tool today. So let's go ahead and get started with our doorknob. I wanted to go basic with our project that we're working on today because it can be really overwhelming when you start with projects that involve a lot of pre-existing knowledge. And I don't want this to be overwhelming. And it's the same way with the kids class. The string art project is fantastic and several people have gotten some beautiful results out of it. I'll try to remember to post some pictures of some of the different projects that we've had because they're really cool. All right, so with the doorknob, each doorknob is different. But this particular doorknob, you can't see any screws exposed, okay? Now there is one over here on the doorknob side, and I'm going to get up and move so you guys can see better. So yeah, no, that's a button, so we're good there. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my flat screwdriver. There's a little notch in here, and we're going to use this to kind of, let me move my, there we go, that's better. And we're going to use this to kind of pop it off. There we go. All right. So now we've got that popped off. There we go. Yeah. And, I forgot. Let's go ahead and get that doorknob off too. It's got a little button you push in. If you've seen like the expanding legs on a chair, it's a little button like that. You push it in and you pull the doorknob off. So now we've got the doorknob off. Each one's different. And then we're going to take this ring off and put that down. All right. Now, next, we've got some screws in here, and they're Phillips head. So we're going to use our Phillips head screwdriver now. And we're going to press it in, and you want to press hard because we want complete contact with the screws so we don't accidentally strip those screws, okay? So once we get it loose, this isn't as big of a challenge. Yeah, we're there. We're just going to take the rest of it. Oh, it's a little stuck there. Come on. Yeah, there we go. All right, that's another screw out. That's a longer one. And then we're going to take this one out. This will be much easier because we've already gotten the other one out. And I'm going to move to the other side because we're probably going to drop the other half of the doorknob once we get this. All right, and remember, this is the one thing you learned in kindergarten you didn't realize was going to be so important in your life. Lefty-loosey, righty-tighty. Very important. All right, let's see if we can get that one to spin out pretty quick. Like I said, each doorknob's different. The one we're putting on will go on a little differently than this one came off. So you'll have two different examples. But usually if you can't see a screw, there's some kind of a button that can pop off. And now our doorknob has come completely off. There we go. So we set that down. But usually there's something that you can push that'll allow it to pop off, or a screw to unscrew, a little hole that's different. Basically what you're looking for is what's different, because there's always something different. Now, if you look at the end here, we've still got one more piece in here, and we aren't going to use this one because the new doorknob that we're replacing it with, this is the new doorknob. Nice and pretty and shiny. I think so. So we are going to take the door jam out here. And it's a Phillips head. So once again, I'm going to move that so that I don't drop my mic while we're talking. Yes, that's good. Okay. Secure the door, press in and turn. You really don't want that screwdriver coming up and scratching up the screw head. That's not going to help you. All right, that's one. And second one. Now almost brought the screwdriver up a little bit on that one. So that's why pressing in hard is important. Keeps you from scratching up your screwdriver, but also from stripping your screws. All right, now we're going to take this piece out. And as you can see, we have now removed the old doorknob. And that was not too hard. We did that all with 2 screwdrivers, a flathead and a Phillips head. So the next part is going to be installing the screwdriver, or the doorknob. So this is where it's going to get a little bit trickier, and we're going to need a different tool. You may not, because if your plate is the same as your other plate, then you're going to be just fine. But if it's not, then you're going to have to use that chisel. So this is where we're going to start to need to use the chisel. So set down my screwdrivers. And if you place it in there, you can kind of get a feel for where it needs to be. So basically, what we need to do is we just need to take out the rounded corners. That's all. It's the same height. We just need to remove those rounded corners. So what we're going to do, we're going to put our chisel right in here. And again, lining things up proper is important. I like to hold the door between my knees. So let's give it a tap. And let's see how we did. Oh yeah, we did great. All right, see if you can see. You see that little cut? You can see the corner coming off maybe. Let's see what you can see up close here. I'll bring you in a little closer. There you go. You can kind of see what we're aiming at there. So I'm going to let y'all stick back there. All right. And we're going to go ahead. Now remember, you want the straight side to be against your straight edge because you're using that to keep you straight and in line with where you want to be. And we want that straight edge flat up against the straight top part of the cutout. Now, and you also want your edge not too far over. You want it so that when it comes down, you're gonna be right where you need to be. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I'm gonna take my little door jamb and get a feel for where we're at. Yeah, we don't even really need to move it over any. We just need to cut those guys out and we'll be good to go. So I'm gonna take that. You don't even have to go that far over for this one. So this is really more of an art here. It's not really a measure, it's an eyeball kind of thing. You know, I mean, to a point you can measure, but there's a limit. And some of it, you know, you'll just be kind of scooping out the corners. Like I said, though, no real right or wrong way, except you want to keep the flat edge flat against the sides you are trying to cut out. We just don't want to expand it anymore. So we're staying near the edge. Yeah, need a little bit more. And not flat goes against the straight edge. A little bit more. Yeah, there we go. That's looking pretty good. Yeah. All right. So we have got our top parts squared off. Now we're going to do the bottom part. And again, flat side goes against the straight edge. That's very important. All right, and let's, yeah, that's good. And then that looks pretty good. And we'll come in here and a lot of this you won't be able to tell really. You just really need to be able to fit it in there. So you don't have to get it completely perfect. I mean, obviously you don't want to do a terrible job, but it doesn't have to be 100% perfect. It works. I think we've just about gotten those. Yeah. We can kind of use our chisel here to make sure we got everything out. Yeah, it looks like we're good. All right, let's try fitting it in, see if I got the right amount taken out. Let's see if that'll go in. Going all the way. Not bad, not bad. Maybe take a little bit off the bottom just to make sure it fits in well. It fits, but I think once we get started with the screw, it's not going to go completely all the way in. So what we're going to do is we're just going to extend this down just a wee bit, just to make it a little bit easier. And really you want to hold it at the handle. I'm at an odd angle here. And if you choose the correct doorknob, you won't have to do this part. You can skip this part. There we go. Yeah, that's much better. Use that as scoop it out a little bit. Yeah, I think so. Okay. Let's try setting that in there now. Use a little bit more. I tend to get a little bit picky when it comes to this, so you don't have to be that picky, but give it a little bit of side there. I'm going to let go of. It's easily popping off. There we go. That's better. Yeah. All right, let's put that in now. Yeah, I think that looks just fine. Just fine. All right. We're going to need the screws for that. Things come in packaged together. Let's see here. We will take these two right here. Now again, these are Phillips heads. And we already have holes drilled. You're likely not going to need a drill for a project like this, as long as you're replacing a doorknob. If there hasn't been a doorknob put in before, then you may need it. I'm going to press in nicely so I can get it in tight. Now, one thing you want to be careful of, don't tighten everything. Because if you tighten everything all at once, then sometimes things will be uneven and crooked. And also, we still have to get all of the pieces in. So I think each doorknob's a little bit different. So, all right, that's a good like placeholder for right now. Yeah, that's good. All right, let's see, doorknob now. Now, place Place this one. You want them to fit together properly. There we go. All right, now I'm going to kind of show you from this angle. I'm going to need long screws because that's how this one holds together. It has screws on the outside. The biggest challenge with this is going to be that I have to get the screws in enough so that I can get access to the screw head with my Phillips head. So I'm going to twist them in as much as I can with my fingers, and then I'm going to use my screwdriver. I feel like in a way that I should have introduced this talk as being tool time with Amy. I should have had some kind of, assistant or something. I don't know if you've seen Home Improvement, but that's what it makes me think of. Especially Al with his plaid shirts. All right. Got our screws in pretty good. Let's see if we can get access. Yes, and we can get access tightly, which is important, like I said. So I don't have my screwdriver popping out of my screw head. Here we go. All right, and again, don't tighten too much until you've gotten everything all the way in. Then we'll go through and tighten everything. I like to use my feet when I'm doing projects like this because I can get a little bit of stability by holding things with my feet while I'm using my hands. All right, now we're going to go through and tighten everything down. Remember, righty-tighty. That one almost popped out. And that worked out nicely. There we go. We will tighten once more on the back side. Get it nice and tight. There we go. And our doorknob is on. It works. We shut our door. Ta-da! It is all done. Now, we do have one other thing we need to do here. We've got to replace our door jamb. This will be a piece of cake compared to what we already did. So now, there's my cord. I'm going to move my bench over so that you guys can get a good view of the door jamb. And we're going to move our camera just a bit. This is kind of a catch-all closet we use. So it's got all kinds of interesting things in there. All right, there you go. Now you've got a good view. All right. Whoops, there went my screw. Those are important to hang on to. All right, now this is going to be a cakewalk in comparison. All we are going to do here, there we go, is to take, let me put my screws in a safe place there. All right, we're going to take my screwdriver, Phillips head again, get it locked into place. Push in while we're turning so that we don't pop that screwdriver out of the head. Got one off. We've got two off. And now we're just gonna, our plate doesn't want to come off. Sometimes that happens. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our little handy dandy flathead screwdriver. Yes, it's handy dandy, and just pop it right off. No big deal, it's off now. That was brass, and we're changing out to a nickel. So we're gonna place our plate goes directly on there. It's the same size, so we don't have to play any with our chisel. And then we are going to press in and turn. It also helps us to go straight, although these holes are pre-drilled, so you're less likely to have an issue with that. And remember what I said about not screwing it in too tightly? You want to kind of even them out as you're tightening down, because if you tighten it too much, you're going to cause some shifting, and we don't want our plate to shift. We want it to go right where it's supposed to go. And then I'll tighten this one down. That looks good. All right, we've got our plate on. We're going to try shutting our door. So let me scoot you guys back a bit and shut our door. And as you can see, we now have a nickel doorknob. Now, I told you guys that I was going to show you a little bit about how we remove the hinges too. Because if you look at the hinges, which I don't know if you can actually tell in here, but these are actually brass hinges. And I like things to match. So I'm going to show you how we do that. For this, we're going to want a Phillips head screwdriver. And you can use a mallet or you can use a hammer. I'm going to use a mallet because it has a larger head. And I'm going to sit on the floor to do this one. So we're going to move you guys around. All right. Yeah, there you go. Now you can see. You can't see my head. There we go. All right. Now where'd our mallet go? There's our mallet. Mallet and Phillips head. Phillips head is round. We are going to pop these guys out. See? Super easy peasy. We've got one out. The door is shut, so it should not fall down. But then I'll have to take it down so that I can, hold on, let's lift you guys up so you guys can see. We'll have to take the door down so that we can install new hinges. There we go. Oh, that one's a little stuck. Let's see if we can. There we go. That's our second one out. And this will be our last one. We might want to throw our hip a little bit against the door because the door's starting to come out now. Let's see. Let's see if we can. Yeah, there we go. All right, so we've got our 3 dowels out. And now we're going to take this door down. Look at that, guys. We're going to slide our door down right here. Hands here. All right, cool. All right, so now we've got our door down. We're going to, there you go. You can see, I'm going to move it back so you can see this side. And I'll scoot over a little bit. There we go. Now you can see. All right. This is easy peasy, guys. All you have to do is lock your screwdriver in, turn it, and start pulling screws out. And as long as your hinges are the same shape, you won't have to play with the chisel any. And this will be really simple. Most of this you can do with a hammer and a screwdriver. Maybe a flat head, a Phillips head, and a hammer. I've got a mallet, so I'm going to make use of it. Let's see if I can grab my other hinge, and I'll show you guys how to install one. And then I will not show you guys the whole thing. All right, so with this one's a little bit different than the other one. So I want to make sure I'm getting this right. You think in your head about where things are going, because sometimes you can do things backwards. So it always pays to think first. So if you look at this one, we're going to put this side in here, which means this side goes here. So, and I've got some screws. And again, it depends on what you have, because each one's a little bit different in how it fits on. We're going to take this one all together and put it on this away. And because this one does not have, like, if you can look, where's another one of those? If you look at this package, this one doesn't have one where it pops out on one end. And because of that, when I go to put this one on, and again, it depends on what you choose. You can choose things that don't require a chisel. You can choose ones that don't require a second set of hands. But this particular one that we chose, it does not come apart like that. And so you end up having someone hold the door while the other person screws the hinges into the door. At least that's what we've done every time. And so that's pretty much how it works. If we were installing the ones where you just pop it out, then I would be placing one piece here, I'd place the other piece there, and then I'd set the door up all by myself and put the little dowels back through, and I'd be all done. In this case, I'll be calling my husband to come in and help me either hold the door or screw the screws in, depending on his preference. Everybody's got to take the part that they prefer. And that, guys, is how you can replace a doorknob and hinges. It'll vary, but for the most part, same basic process. And if you think your kids would like to learn some life skills, or if you'd like to learn some life skills, there is no age limit on my class at the Plenary for Woodworking. I've also taught other classes. We've taught fun with fats, which was a lot of like candles and crayons and soap, things like that, things that you make with fat. I'm teaching leather working this spring, starting about mid-February. That one will be a lot of fun. By the time you get done with the class, you'll be able to make your own leather armor if you wanted to. We're not doing that in class. I'm giving you the skills to be able to do it. And let's see. I think those are the ones that I've taught so far. Yeah. Those are the ones I've taught so far. But with woodworking, like little kids can take it, big adults can take it, and it'll teach you how to use each tool so that it'll open up a lot of those life skills for you. And quite honestly, as homeschool parents, don't we always want to constantly be learning and growing along with our kids? When we learn things, then we're able to help them learn things better. And how empowering is it, or at least I always felt this way, I found it incredibly empowering as a woman to be able to go in and fix things. All you really need once you have the basic techniques and tools down is a video or a book showing you what you want to do. There's tons of great blogs out there with ideas for building things. We once had our toilet break, of course, when my husband was on a trip for work. That's always how it works. And so I couldn't get one of the pieces off. I ended up using the hacksaw to hack through it and replaced it and fixed it all by myself using a YouTube video. So once you're familiar with how to use the tools properly, the sky's the limit. And how empowering is that to be able to fix things in your own home without having to call someone, and it makes you feel less helpless. So a great skill to be able to share with your children. We have saved so much money over the years because my husband can fix almost anything. I can't fix nearly as much as he can. I cannot use as many of the power tools because of my fine motor skills. They're a little bit on the lacking side. But I can still do a fair amount of woodworking and other projects that have saved us money. We've taken our cars into the shop twice in our marriage, I think. Yeah, twice. I don't know that we've ever paid an electrician. So yeah, learning these kinds of skills, I'm not suggesting that you not pay an electrician if you don't know anything about electricity. I would call an electrician because that is not an area I am skilled in. But learning these kinds of skills can save you money down the road that you can use to spend on food. I mean, that's a huge deal right now. We've got so much inflation that skills like these are really useful. It's worth the money to learn some of these skills. So thanks for being with me today. I had so much fun. And if you want to learn more about the things I offer, you can definitely check out my co-op classes at a Charlotte Mason Plenary, but also check out my own website at amybodkin.com. I do consults with families that have special needs, and that includes anybody who's got a special need, because at some point in life we all do, because we all experience trauma at some point, and that always requires a little TLC. I also have a special needs membership group, also open to anybody. We have a parent discussion group for books on Monday nights. Tuesday, I have open office hours where I just answer questions for people in my membership. And Wednesday mornings, I get to play with kids all morning long, and it's so much fun. We've done yoga adventures using books, where you put movements to the books. We're about to do some marionette shows with sign language added. We usually do a craft of sometimes an edible craft. And oh yeah, last hour is always playing Minecraft on our private Minecraft server. It's really honestly very helpful for learning certain types of visual spatial skills that are required for driving. You can get a lot of visual spatial skills outside playing and driving garden tractors and stuff, but a video game screen is actually more helpful for that kind of thing than a garden tractor, because there's less visibility and it's looking more through a screen. So for kids who really struggle with visual spatial skills, it can be very useful. But to be perfectly honest, most of the time it ends up being kind of like play therapy, because we're kind of talking through, okay, so we had an accident. How can we fix that? Or so-and-so is really frustrated because somebody destroyed their build. What can we do to make that right? And just walking kids through, or, oh, you don't have the same supplies I do for the craft, so how are you going to do yours differently? That's okay. We can do things differently. Creativity is a good thing. So it's so much fun, and I really enjoy getting the opportunity to support families worldwide when your life doesn't look necessarily like the average. I know ours sure doesn't. So thanks for being with me, guys. Bye.